How about that? He made it through kept his voice.
We made it.
That's that's we're at least 50% through. So we'll see if I can keep my voice. I've been struggling with keeping it as well, but I think Brandon had the harder job of keeping his voice today, doing the songs. Good to see you all here. Glad you all made it out. I'm glad everybody who's watching this online, as we just started our live feed, is able to watch it. I know that the Safe Haven ladies are at home watching right now. They were out yesterday at a Elevation Worship event, I guess. Brandon, I don't know about you. I must have forgot to check my mail and got the invite. Did you get the invite? I didn't get the invite. But evidently, they had a great time, and they're all trying to catch up on everything today, so they're watching us online. You know, one advantage of having an illness is you get to spend a lot of time at home. And when your spouse also gets the same illness, you get to spend a lot of time at home together, and you get to have lots of great conversations, right? And you know, I think it was yesterday, Donna and we were talking, and I was talking about the earliest memory that I had in my head. And she was like, I had never heard this story before. And you know, the earliest memory I have is I was somewhere between 3 and 4 years old. I know I was not over 4 because there was something specific that happened after 4, and that hadn't happened yet. We hadn't moved yet. And so somewhere between 3 and 4, I remember I was at home. We had this single wide trailer that was out in the middle of the woods, okay? And next to it was a camper, because I don't know who it was, but some friend of the family was living in the camper next to us. And I don't remember who it was, but that's just the way it was back then. You know, people just pulled up campers and hooked up a garden hose, and that's how it was. And we were in this single wide trailer, and I remember specifically, it was in the morning, and I was sitting, and I could close my eyes right now and picture it. I was cross-legged sitting on the floor. A little friend was next to me that my mom was babysitting. He's a year younger than me. And my mom came into the room, and she said, "You got to get out of the trailer right now." And I remember saying to my mother, because I guess I was defiant even then at 3 and 4 is already forming. And I remember telling her that I didn't want to leave yet because I was watching this children's show that was on TV. And I was into this show, and I didn't want to leave. I'm like, I'm watching this show. I don't want to go out. And then I remember her voice changed and the tone changed. And she said, "The trailer's on fire. Get out of the trailer right now." And I listened. I remember leaving the trailer and going over to the little camper next door and knocking on the door. And that's, you know, the first memory I have as far as, you know, early childhood memories. I remember, it's amazing, isn't it, how our brain works? You have something like that kind of sticks. It kind of sticks in there, that moment. Like I said, I can close my eyes. I can still hear my mother's voice. I can still remember what I was watching on TV that time. And remember that event. It's funny how memory works, or how our brain works sometimes. The sometimes important things that we remember, and sometimes the important things that we forget, and sometimes the silly things that we remember, and sometimes the silly things that we think of. And this last week, I was thinking of one of those silly things. I was. It's not really silly, but it's kind of more of a trivial thing. I was thinking, what's the first question I want to ask Jesus when I get to heaven, right? I'm just thinking about it. It wasn't any deep thought. And I had recently watched a video, and this man had this really great answer, because he said, I wouldn't ask him anything. I would just be tore up, right? I would just be tore up. I'm like, that's pretty good. That's probably true. But then I wondered, and I pondered on it, that question, what would I ask Jesus? You know, if today, right now, suddenly I found myself in heaven, standing before Jesus, if suddenly right now I found myself standing before Jesus, overwhelmed and undone and speechless for sure. But when I gathered myself up enough and I could finally form words, I wonder, what would I ask him? And I think I know what I would ask him. And it wouldn't be about streets of gold or mansions on the hill. It wouldn't even be about, you know, why did I have to go through this certain circumstance in my life, or why did it have to go this way, or not even how tall is Goliath. For a lot of years, that was my question. How tall was Goliath really? It wouldn't be any of those, because I think whenever I was able to ask the question I would want to know, Did we get them all out? I think that's the question I really want to know. Did we get them all? Did we get them all out? My wife, my children, my friends, their friends, my coworkers, their family. The guy who serves me dinner at a restaurant on a regular basis, and he knows I drink Diet Coke, and he knows what foods I like to eat, but does he know Jesus? Does he know that I know Jesus? I think that's the question I would want to know. In that moment, if I could ask one thing, I think it would have to be, did we get them all out? Did we get them all out? You see, and I go back and I think about when a man stands outside of the house that's burning, when a man stands outside of the house that's been on fire. And I think of a good friend of mine, a coworker of mine, a colleague of mine. This man is so well put together. He's a prior military officer, JAG officer, former prosecutor for the federal government. He works in my office. He's one of my law partners. This guy is just put together. I mean, he has just got it going, right? He always has everything in order. Love him to death. He's a great man. Here about a month ago, the home that he lived in caught fire in the middle of the night. His brother had to climb through a window on the second floor to get out. He barely made it out, my colleague, barely made it out. And he's standing out on the coldest night of the year. And he's worrying about whether or not his brother made it out the window or not. He doesn't even realize he's standing there in his boxer underwear, right? He probably loves the fact that I'm telling the story. But he's standing there in his boxer shorts. And his only concern is, did my brother make it out the window? He didn't care a bit about the fact that how cold it was outside, or that he's standing there in his underwear in the middle of town, right? Didn't care a thing about that. In fact, other people had to come to him and say, hey, you're not wearing any clothes. Here's some pants to put on. And he, of course, put the pants on and realized then that it was cold. But his concern was, when a man is standing outside the house that's on fire, his concern is, did everyone make it out? Did my loved ones make it out of that house? You know, he's not asking, hey, Mr. Fireman, how much water can that truck hold? What's the brand of hose that you're using? I'm just curious. You know, he doesn't think about that. He doesn't think about that. He thinks about, did they make it out? Did they make it out? Are they still in there? Were they able to get out? Because when something's on fire, nothing else matters. When something's on fire, nothing else matters other than, did they make it out? Did we get everyone out? In Luke 16, got the verse there, Luke 16, verses 27 through 31. This is oftentimes we refer to as the rich man and Lazarus story, right? Then he said, and this is the rich man who's in hell, and he's speaking to Abraham. He says, then he says, I beg you therefore, Father, that you would send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, that he may testify to them, unless they also come to this place of torment. Abraham said to him, they have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them. And he said, no, Father Abraham, but if one goes to them from the dead, they will repent. But he said to him, if they do not hear Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded through one who rises from the dead. We could preach on that all night. Neither will they be persuaded by one who was risen from the dead. This is Jesus telling the story, a foreshadowing of what was to come. And so here we have this rich man, and he dies, and he finds himself in torment, and suddenly clarity comes. He finds himself in torment, and suddenly clarity comes to him. He says, send someone to my father's house. I have 5 brothers. Let them warn them. Warn them. My 5 brothers. You see, once he understood eternity, evangelism became urgent. Once he understood eternity, Evangelism became urgent. The first missionary in hell, did you ever think about it that way? The first missionary in hell was begging for someone to warn his family. Go to my family, tell them about this so that they might be persuaded. He didn't ask for wealth. He didn't ask for power. He asked for someone to go and warn his family, to tell them why. Because once you realize the house is burning, you don't want any loved ones left inside. That's why. That's why his only concern was go tell my brothers. He realized the house was on fire, and he wanted to know that they were going to get out. You see, in eternity, the only regret is not warning others. In eternity, the only regret is not warning others, is not telling others, is not finding out, letting them find out. Because once the house collapses, you don't get another chance to run back in. Once the house is burned and the frame falls down on itself, you don't get to go and save another. And that was this man in this story that Jesus was telling. The house had already collapsed. He didn't get to go and tell his brothers. And his only desire was that someone would go and tell his family to save them the torment that he was in. And we contrast this story in the book, and we go to the book of Acts in the 20th chapter, in the 26th and 27th verses. We contrast the story of the rich man and Lazarus, and we go to Paul, the apostle Paul, who says, "Therefore I testify to you this day that I am innocent of the blood of all men, for I have not shunned to declare to you the whole counsel of God." I'm innocent of the blood, Paul declares. What a statement. What a different position Paul was in than this man, this rich man that was in hell. Because this rich man in hell, who was completely impotent to do anything about the situation, just wanted somebody to go and tell his family. And here's Paul saying, I'm innocent. I testify for you today that I'm innocent of the blood of all men. For I have not shunned to declare the whole counsel of God. I told them the truth. I told them the whole truth. I didn't shun my responsibility. I didn't shirk my responsibility. I didn't care that it was uncomfortable. I didn't care that it was inconvenient. I didn't care that there were other things that my flesh wanted to do. I did not shun my responsibility. I told them the whole counsel of God. And because of that, my hands are clean of the blood of all men. You see, that's a watchman statement. A watchman statement. You see, those are the words of a man who's taken up the call to be a follower of Christ, to stand at that wall. He said, I have not shunned my responsibility to declare the whole counsel of God. In Ezekiel 33, God tells the prophet that he's a watchman on the wall. That's what Paul's talking about here. The language is the same. We're going to read this and you're going to see this is what Paul is thinking of in his head when he says, my hands are clean of the blood. Because in Ezekiel 33, 2 through 7, this is one of those statements, Brandon, this is one of those statements that should be like written on like house walls and church walls. It's like one of those power statements. This is God speaking. He says, Son of man, speak to the children of your people and say to them, when I bring the sword upon a land and the people of the land take a man from their territory and make him their watchman, when he sees the sword coming upon the land, catch this, if he blows the trumpet and warns the people, then whoever hears the sound of the trumpet and does not take warning, if the sword comes and takes him away, his blood shall be on his own head. He heard the sound of the trumpet, but did not take warning. His blood shall be upon himself. That's powerful. But then the Lord goes on to say, but he who takes warning will save his life. It's on them. They heard the trumpet. Now they have a decision to make. But then the Lord goes on and he says, but if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet, and the people are not warned, and the sword comes and takes any person from among them, he is taken away in his iniquity, but his blood I will require at the watchman's hand. So you, son of man, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel. Therefore you shall hear a word from my mouth and warn them for me. That's power. That should shake us in our foundations, watchmen. That should shake us in our foundations, watchmen. Anyone who is told by the Lord to deliver the message is the watchman. And he says, if the watchman sees danger and says nothing, the blood is on his own hands. But if he warns them, he has delivered his soul. He's done his part. He's delivered his soul. That's heavy. That's heavy. That's what Paul was talking about when he says, my hands are clean of the blood because I have declared, I have not shirked my duty. I have sounded the trumpet. I have not shirked my duty to deliver the message, the whole counsel of God. Not responsible for their decision, but responsible to warn, responsible to speak, responsible to blow the trumpet. Paul could stand before God and say, I told them, I blew the trumpet. I blew the trumpet like you told me to. Not that everyone believed, not that everyone responded, but he didn't stay silent. He blew the trumpet. He didn't stay silent. He didn't edit the message. He didn't soften the warning. He declared it. He declared the whole counsel of God. If we stepped into eternity tonight, could we say that? Could we say what Paul has said? That I didn't stay silent. I blew the trumpet. I didn't edit the message. I didn't soften the warning. I declared it. The whole counsel of God. Can we say that? If we stepped into eternity tonight, could we say, I did not shirk my responsibility to speak. I did not shirk my responsibility to blow the trumpet, to tell them? Or would there be faces that flashed across our minds that remind us of the times that we remain silent? Would we be as confident as Paul standing that day saying, my hands are clean, I delivered the message? Or would we stand there regretting our silence? Here's something I preach often. Every day when I wake up, part of my daily prayer, my morning prayer, part of that is, Lord, let me have one more to help you save. Let me have one more. You hear me say it all the time. The ladies at Safe Haven, they hear me say it all the time. And I hear them say it all the time. We joke it needs to be on a shirt somewhere that, just one more. Just one more. Just give me one more. Lord, just one more to help you save. Just one more conversation, right? One more divine appointment. One more door to open. One more coworker. One more family member. One more stranger on the street. One more. Give me one more. And after he's given me that one more, I pray it again. Lord, just one more. Just one more. Just one more. I pray it again. That's how the kingdom grows. One at a time, one conversation at a time, one testimony at a time. You see, I think sometimes the enemy wants to overwhelm us, make us feel like we're not capable, we're not good enough. He tries to overwhelm us by making us think that we have to save the entire city, that we have to fix the whole culture, that we have to reach everyone right now. But Jesus often worked one at a time. One woman at a well, one tax collector in a tree, one jailer at midnight, one at a time. You don't have to save everyone. We just have to be faithful to speak to that one that's in front of us and then ask for one more. Can you imagine if every believer acted that way? Heaven would get crowded fast, wouldn't it? Right? If each one of us acted that way every day, heaven would get crowded fast. It wouldn't just be a saying on our shirt, right? It'd be a legacy that we left behind. One more. Just give me one more, one at a time. Because this message of not being silent, this message of sounding the trumpet, being the watchman on the wall, it's not a message of guilt. It's a message about love. Love out loud, right? Because if your child were in a burning house, you wouldn't whisper. If your child was in a burning house, you would not whisper. My mother didn't whisper 50 years ago. I remember the sound of her voice when her tone changed and she said, "The trailer's on fire, get out." I know when I need to listen. She blew a trumpet and it saved my life. You wouldn't, if that were your child in a burning building, you wouldn't wait for a better time. You wouldn't wait for a more convenient time to say it. You wouldn't wait to a time when it was less inconvenient to yourself or to others. You wouldn't wait for it to be less awkward. You see, love creates urgency. Love creates urgency. The rich man's urgency came too late for him to act on it, right? He got urgency, but he got it so late that he couldn't act on it anymore. Paul acted upon urgency, and it gave him peace at the end of his life. The difference is the urgency was there. The difference is, did you get it quick enough to be able to act on it, or was it too late? Did you act on it in that time, or did you wait until it was too late? The urgency is there. Which one would you want to be? Think about that. Which one would you want to be in those two scenarios that we contrasted from the Bible? The man who's in hell saying, "Please just go to my brothers and tell them. Or Paul, who says, "I delivered the message, the whole counsel of God. My hands are clean because I've been diligent. I've been obedient. I've done the thing. I did the act. I spoke the words. And I have peace with it." Let's make this real for a second. I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to just ponder on it for a second. Who's still in the house that's on fire in your life? I want you to think about that. Hell's real. Heaven's real. Eternity is real. The house is on fire. The house is on fire. Who in your life do you know that's still in the house? Who do you know? Say their name in your mind, like right now. Just say their name in your mind. Is it a child? Is it a spouse? A grandchild? A friend? Somebody who serves you food at a diner? Whose name's in your mind? Who's still in the house? They know your personality. They know your humor. They may even know your politics. Do they know that you know him? Do they know him? Who's in the house that's on fire? Do they know your testimony? Do they know what he's done for you? Have you blown the trumpet? Have you blown the trumpet? Brandy, you want to go ahead and come on up here? This world is not our home. This world is not our home. It's our rescue mission. It's our rescue mission. We're here to rescue people. We're here. We've been standing on the wall. We're the person standing on the wall that the Lord has called to deliver a message, to warn his people. Our job is to blow the trumpet, to warn people, to tell them. It's a rescue mission. And one day, sooner than we think, we're going to stand in front of Jesus. Just like I said at the beginning of this message, if I could imagine standing in front of Jesus, what would I want to ask him? One day we're going to stand in front of Jesus, and in that moment, in that glorious moment, the only thing that's going to matter is people. People. Not titles, not schedules, not excuses. People. The Holy Spirit has put a name on your heart tonight. If there's someone you've been silent about, someone you've been silent to, if there's someone you need to pray for, if there's someone you need to repent over, if you've become the obstacle, if you become the stumbling block for somebody else and that needs to be removed, or if you need to re-engage with somebody so that they can hear your trumpet blast, the altar is open, watchman. Eternity is too long to stay silent.
I'm done trusting in what's sinking. These boats weren't built for me. I'm done drifting on the water of insecurity. In the noise and the distractions, in the storms of arguing, I hear your voice calling, calling, and I'm gonna fix my